Good evening.
สวัสดีค่ะ very good evening and welcome to our special program Reignite Bangkok where we will be covering the Bangkok gubernatorial elections and this is actually the first time in 9 years. At the same time, it is also the first Bangkok's council election in 12 years as well.
Right. So today is the day Bangkokians will decide as governor, as you mentioned, Kunat, the first time in almost a decade already. It's also a coincidence, probably. Also, one may say that this is also the 8th anniversary of the 2014 coup. So some may say this is quite ironic that today is also the day, that monks and democratic elections were especially for Bangkok and also another city that will hold some elections today, also in Pattaya. So there are total number of 31 candidates that applied for the top job, which is actually quite very high number, actually the highest in history, with 2 candidates already being disqualified by the Election Commission. And the Election Commission also estimates that more than 3 million people, or 70% of all eligible voters in Bangkok, voted today in the elections, compared to 3.25 million in the 2019 general election. So if the turnout really actually turn out to be a little bit lower than the general election, it may mean that, of course, this is exciting times, but it might not gain as much interest or participation as one may expect. And from this moment, we can anticipate the votes and who will win the gubernatorial elections.
And from the entire population in Bangkok, which is about 5.5 million people, a total of 4.4 million people are eligible to vote for the gubernatorial elections this year, as well as 4.3 million are also eligible to vote for the council elections. And for this program, we will be giving you insightful reports, key candidate profiles, in-depth analyses, and most importantly, the real-time vote counting as well.
Right, Kanat. So, and not just all the vote counts, but also live ambience from our field reporters. And speaking of which, we have our reporter Kun Gitipachen Sukchit, who's joining us live from Stadium 1, where supporters of independent candidate Chacha Setipan gather together as they wait for the results. Hi, Kun Gitipat, how is it going over there?
Hello, good evening, Kun Nat and Kun Hatai. Right now, I'm at the Stadium 1, where the independent candidate in Bangkok's gubernatorial election and former transport minister, Chacha Setipan, has showed up and going to give speech to his supporters. Even though today is so cloudy and looks like it's going to rain, but a lot of media and supporters still flocked into this area since 5 p.m. And right now, the supporters still enter in this area to support Chacha Setipan. So you can see here, the stage has been prepared for Chacha to give a speech on the stage. And right now on the stage, we can see that it's showing the unofficial result of Bangkok's gubernatorial election right now. So Chacha Setipan, who won in the most of the unofficial polls before the election, is now leading in the unofficial election result with nearly 200,000 votes, or around the half of all votes. At 6:30 p.m., Chacha arrived at Stadium 1 by BTS SkyTrain with confidence, but not yet announced the victory of the Bangkok's gubernatorial election yet. Talking about this morning, Chacha Setipan arrived at the polling station in front of Jamjan School in Watana district on a bicycle shortly before 8 a.m. as the doors opened at 8 a.m. Chacha said that he felt relaxed in the morning, but then a bit nervous as he saw so many people at the polling station. He told the reporters that he has been blessed by his mother before he left home this morning. He said his mother told him to do his best. So you can see here at my right hand side over there. Okay, so there's a lot of claps, so I think that Shashat is showing up again. But they are still waiting for Kun Shashat to give a speech on the stage again. So back to the entrance of the area. So at the right hand side is the entrance to the area where the strict safety measures have been imposed. Shashat supporters will have their temperature checked, back checking, and they must wear face masks at all times. So right now it's 6:40 p.m. Shashat still not yet come out to see his supporters. So everyone now waiting for Shashat to give a speech and waiting for the official result. As right now it's 200,000 votes already. So we wait for Shashat again to come out to see the supporters here on the stage. So back to Kun Nat and Kun Hatthai ครับ
All right, thank you. And that's the live ambience at Stadium 1, which is where the supporters of Chachas Setipan gathered to root for the results as well.
Exactly. Well, it seems like really, lively ambience. And of course, since he's now leading, right? So there seems to be a lot of supporters. As you can see, the atmosphere is quite lively with also a lot of reporters.
Exactly. And apart from Kun Kitipat Chusukjit, who is actually at Stadium 1, another reporter who is also covering the ambience as well is Chalan Lakjanwanpen, who is reportedly joining us live from ESV Tower at Pahon Yotin 9, which is where the supporters of Suchachawi Suwansawat have gathered together. So let's find out more from her.
Over an hour, almost 2 hours since the vote came to an end at 5 p.m. this evening. And we started to see some results, of course, the vote counts and the opinion polls. And right now we can see that Suchachawi is coming third in the race, but he appears to be in good spirits and he remains here all day since he cast the vote this morning. Though it's been quite a long day for him actually, because today, like all the other candidates, Suchachawi started his day early, being one of the first to cast the ballot around 8:30 in the morning. Because no election campaigns are allowed after 6 p.m. on the election eve, most of the candidates have to be careful about their interview with the media. So we only briefly talked to reporters, sending a message to eligible voters, encouraging them to go and vote. And after casting his ballot in Kanayao in Bangkok this morning, so Suchachawi went to another polling station in Lat Phrao to drop his wife for the vote before coming here in his office in Pahon Yotin. And at 5 p.m. today, after the vote stops, so Suchachawi gave a brief interview thanking everyone who supported and voted for him. Though the poll suggested he came the third place right now in the election, he said that he remained confident. So, and after the vote, the initial results of the vote is confirmed at around 9 p.m. So Suchachawi said that he might go to his affiliated party, Democrat. Back to you, Nat.
Thank you. And that's Kun Chalan Lakjanwanpen from the ESV Tower, where the supporters of Suchachawi Suwansawat gathered, waiting for the results. And now it's time to look at the vote counting. And first of all, we will give you a walkthrough as to how we will be reporting the vote counting as well as other things. For this, we are using this website that has been developed by Thai PBS that will give you real-time results from a collaboration from media organizations, including Thai PBS, private and civil sectors, where they have sent volunteers to report the numbers from all 6,000 vote counting stations. So at the moment, Around 406,000 votes have been counted so far, and based on the votes, independent candidate Chattat Sittipan is in the lead at the moment, and it looks like he is actually taking over the entire capital. And if we go to the overall results, so on that tab, if we click on the overall results, not the district results, you can see that who is leading at the moment. So as I just said, Chattat Sittipan is leading with around 209,000 votes, followed by Suchachawi Suwansawat from the Democrat Party. Other runner-ups also include Wiro Lakhanadison from the Move Forward Party, former Deputy Governor Sakwanti Patiyakul, and former Governor Aswin Kwanmuang. Other interesting candidates in this ranking are Rosanato Sitrakul, who is also an independent candidate, and Sitha Tiwari as well. And if we go back to the district results, if we go by districts, you will be able to see which candidate is currently leading in each of the 50 districts. And for this website, you can either use the infographic version or the map version, or you can even search by the district you live in. And what you're seeing at the moment, Chattat Sittipan is actually leading in all 50 districts. And apart from this, you can also find out who is leading at the moment in the candidates tab, where you can actually sort by its ranking, its candidate number, or even in alphabetical order. And you can see that the voting turnouts are actually counted real time as well. But apart from the gubernatorial elections, another important part that is also important is the councillor results. And this is where you can actually see which party gains the most seats in the Bangkok Metropolitan Council. So this is actually a general idea of how we will be reporting the votes in this program. And so far, if we look on this page at the moment, Pheu Thai has gained 14 seats at the moment, followed by Move Forward Party. They gained 10 seats. Democrat Party gained 8 seats. And Rak Krung Thep gained 4 seats at the moment. So this is a general idea of how we will be reporting the vote counting, whether it's for the gubernatorial elections or even the councillors as well.
Right, Kanad, this seems actually really easy to use, the website.
Yeah.
So, you can go and check also yourself if you need to keep updated on the situation and the latest vote counts, because as you can see, it's all in there, and especially in English as well, for actually all the candidates.
Exactly.
And even the districts.
Yes, and if you want to check them out yourself, you can go to this website, BKK Elections 65.thaipbs.or.th. And when you enter this website, don't forget to change the language to English so that you can understand what is going on a bit better.
Exactly, Kanad. And from what we just saw just now, it was real-time vote counts. And this is what, 6:46 p.m., for example. So that's actually been almost 2 hours, more than 1.5 hours already after all the, voting stations have closed, all the boxes, just closed and sealed and being transported for the vote counts as well. And while we, and as you can see as well before, with Kun Chattat, independent candidate, actually leading by quite a big leap already. It's
exactly.
Amounts to around 50% already, leaving some other candidates behind. But of course, the night may be still a bit too young to tell because we still have more votes to count. Which means that when we are waiting for more updates, let's turn now to some of our insightful reports. And many candidates actually have been, vowing to solve all the many problems in the capital, like, flooding, the traffic, the need for more green spaces, or even putting an end to corruption, for example.
Pavements as well, that is also a big problem.
Right, exactly. But because there's so many, just to pick at least one, the biggest priority for them to solve now, what would they choose? Let's find out more from this report.
ต้องแก้น้ำท่วมที่ยังเหลืออีก9 จุด
So if I become Bangkok Governor I have to go fight COVID-19
สิ่งที่สำคัญที่สุดคือกระจายงบราชการออกมา 4,000 ล้านแล้วทำมันให้กลายเป็นงบที่ประชาชนเลือกเองได้
เราต้องหยุดโกงกรุงเทพเปลี่ยนแน่
ถ้าจะแก้ได้จะแก้เรื่องการบริหารจัดการงบประมาณใหม่
คือจริงๆมันมีปัญหาเร่งด่วนเยอะเลยแต่อันแรกเนี่ยพอ22 พฤษภาคมก่อนจะประกาศก็มิถุนายนฝนมาพอดีต้องแก้น้ำท่วมที่ยังเหลืออีก9 จุดมัน24 จุดผมแก้ไปแล้ว15ยังเหลืออีก9 จุดเนี่ยตรงเนี้ยเพราะฝนมันจะมาพอดีไงไม่อยากให้น้ำท่วมกรุงเทพซ้ำซาก
So if I become Bangkok Governor I have to go fight COVID-19 otherwise if COVID-19 pandemic is still around it's so difficult to do anything people lost job and I witnessed people just dead in front of me I mean it's so painful so I must improve the system right away to take care of COVID-19 patients and overall system and support all the equipments to hospital I mean Bangkok Government Hospital and support the people more and more otherwise if we not fight COVID very well I mean nothing can improve
ผมคิดว่านโยบายที่สำคัญที่สุดนะก็คือนโยบายที่เราจะกระจายจากงบราชการที่แฝงตามสำนักงานเขตหรืออยู่ในมือของงบกลางผู้ว่าสิ่งที่สำคัญที่สุดคือกระจายงบราชการออกมา 4,000 ล้านแล้วทำมันให้กลายเป็นงบที่ประชาชนเลือกเองได้งบที่คนกรุงเทพเลือกเองได้ว่าจะเอาไปทำโครงการอะไรเพื่อแก้ปัญหาของเขาทำโครงการที่เร่งด่วนตอบโจทย์ของพวกเขานี่ไม่ใช่แค่การกระจายงบประมาณแต่เป็นการคืนอำนาจคืนความเป็นเจ้าของกรุงเทพให้กับคนกรุงเทพทุกคนประชาชนจะไม่ต้องไปอ้อนวอนร้องขอจากใครเวลาเดือดร้อนแต่จะกลายเป็นผู้ทรงอำนาจผู้ถืองบประมาณแล้วสั่งให้หน่วยงานราชการออกไปรับใช้ประชาชน
เราต้องหยุดโกงกรุงเทพเปลี่ยนแน่มันจะนำไปสู่การที่เราจะสามารถมีทรัพยากรมากพอในการที่จะจัดสรรให้กับคนให้เท่าเทียมที่สุดเท่าที่จะเป็นไปได้เพราะว่าหลักการสำคัญที่สุดเนี่ยนะคะของคนที่จะมาเป็นผู้บริหารงานในหน่วยงานรัฐอย่างท้องถิ่นแบบนี้ก็คือการจัดสรรทรัพยากรเพราะฉะนั้นทรัพยากรในพื้นที่อย่างในกทมเราก็มีจำนวนหนึ่งแต่ว่าถ้าเราไม่ได้มีการจัดสรรทรัพยากรให้กับทุกคนอย่างเสมอภาคกันบ้านเมืองมันก็จะมีปัญหาเราก็อย่างที่เราเห็นเราก็เจอจนกระจุกรวยกระจุกจนกระจายมากเพราะฉะนั้นปัญหาที่สำคัญที่สุดถ้าถามว่าจะแก้ปัญหาอะไรนะคะก็คือเรื่องของโอกาสในการทำมาหากินของคนเล็กคนน้อยที่เราต้องการที่จะส่งเสริมเพราะว่าคนเล็กคนน้อยเหล่านี้เนี่ยเป็นต้องเรียกว่าเป็นผู้แบกรับฐานคือเรียกว่าพีระมิดทางเศรษฐกิจของมหานครแห่งนี้แต่ว่ามักจะไม่ได้รับความสนใจเพราะว่ารัฐเองอาจจะมองว่าคนที่เป็น economic actor หรือเป็นผู้ที่จะทำให้เกิดฐานเศรษฐกิจ
ถ้าจะแก้ได้จะแก้เรื่องการบริหารจัดการงบประมาณใหม่เพราะว่างบประมาณของกรุงเทพมหานครเนี่ยมันดูเยอะจริงแต่ว่ามันหมดไปกับค่าจ้างประมาณสัก 40% ที่เหลือก็บางทีเป็นหนี้ภาระผูกพันบางครั้งนี่ถ้ามีสถานการณ์อย่างโควิดเนี่ยก็ทำให้เงินยิ่งน้อยลงอีกแต่ว่าปัญหากรุงเทพมันเยอะนะฮะทีนี้ในการกระจายงบเนี่ยบางครั้งเนี่ยถ้าเราไปทำกับไม่กับโปรเจกต์มากเกินไปโดยการที่ไม่ไปดูตามเขตเลยเพราะว่าเขตที่อยู่นอกเนี่ยบางทีมันพัฒนาไม่ทันเขตชั้นในนะครับรวมถึงการหาเงินเข้ากทมปกติไม่เคยมีผู้ว่าท่านไหนที่จะหาเงินในเรื่องงบประมาณเลยเรารอแต่เงินอุดหนุนจากรัฐบาลอย่างเดียว
Right, and these are the things that they have decided to choose what they're going to do once they become the Bangkok governor. And they have actually different things. Like for example, Suchachawi came up with COVID-19, Rosanai came up with corruption, and Wirod and Sakunti were focusing on the reallocation of the budgets. And these are Actually, there are many more issues that need to be fixed, but if they had to choose only one, these are the things that they decided on. And to give you a better idea of what each candidate has to offer, we will look into the policies which they have been campaigning to persuade voters to vote for them today. And we'll begin with Tatas Sitipan, who is actually leading at the moment. He came up with this policy which is called Bangkok's 9 Good Things. And he announced as many as 200 policies under 9 main headings, naming them the 9 good things. And the 9 main headings are good safety, good health, good environment, education, management, good transportation, good structure, good economy, and good creativity. And we'll give you one example with good environment. He actually vowed to increase more green spaces, tackling with air pollution by setting up a team to probe into the root causes of PM 2.5 dust and supporting the electric vehicle ecosystem. Or even with transportation, he also vowed to install more of the intelligent traffic management systems, improving pavements, and increasing safe bicycle parking places. Now let's move on to another candidate, Wirot Lakhanadisort. He actually vowed to make Bangkok into a city where everyone is equal, and he vowed to make such changes to ensure equality with 12 policies. One of them is increasing the welfare allowances for the elderly from 60 baht to 1,000 baht per month and 1,200 baht per month to be allocated for childcare and the disabled people. Another interesting part, Kudatai, is that he also wants to improve the education system so that children can freely follow their dreams, such as by investing in high-quality online education, creating bullying-free schools, and encouraging learning outside of schools. Improving pavements is also one of the main policies, and pedestrian crossings. And at the same time, one of the policies that he vowed to do is to reduce corruption as well. And now let's move on to Suttatawi Suwansawai, where he came up with this policy called Change Bangkok, We Can Do It. Even though he's a newbie in politics, but he came up with so many great ideas as the former rector of KMITL. And one of them is to fix issues such as city flooding, traffic jams, and collapse of buildings, install smart utility poles, which include solar cells, CCTV cameras, and air quality detectors, to monitor safety, traffic congestion, and air pollution, and find ways to prevent Bangkok from sinking due to the rising sea levels. And now, another independent candidate and former Deputy Bangkok Governor Sakonti Pattayakul also proposed 6 main policies for transforming Bangkok into a happy and healthy city. And one of the highlights is on public transport, where he plans to deploy electric vehicle boats and the extension of the Sky Train lines. As for public health, he also vowed to do the implementation of smart clinics and telemedicine, the development of 11 hospitals under the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration. And apart from this, he also focused on digital transformation using a Bangkok digital infrastructure system to improve the working system for government officials and the use of government data. And another highlight is Rosana Tositrakul, who actually vowed to end corruption, as she strongly believes that it will lead to significant changes. One of them, she also vowed to do the 3,000 baht pension per month for each pensioner, as well as the suspension of the controversial BTS concession, with the ticket price reduced to only 20 baht for the whole route. And anything related to COVID-19, she also offered that there will be free Pha Thalai Jon herbal and other Thai medicines so that people can live with COVID-19 and resume their businesses. Apart from this, she also said that she wants to set up funds for the installation of solar cell roofing, which can save electricity costs for each household by up to 500 baht per month, as well as upgrading 69 health centers in Bangkok to be 24-hour hospitals as well. Last but not least, we have Asawin Kwan Mueang, who's the junta-appointed governor, where he hopes to be finally elected by the people with his promise to continue where he left off with 8 policies. And one of the biggest policies that he's been talking about is to continue to fix the city's flooding, because he even claimed that he has reduced 24 locations to only 9 locations, and he will continue to reduce them once he becomes the governor. And apart from this, he also vowed to improve the capital's environment with the increase of green spaces, clean canals, and proper waste management, which he also claimed he has successfully done it during his term, and improve the quality of education and the chance of employment. And another one is to transform Bangkok into a digital city where people can get quicker, easier, and more transparent access to government services. So this is just a rough idea of what these candidates have to offer for voters, and these are many of the tactics that they have been using for the past month or so.
Right, really, they are quite ambitious. There's so many points, so many issues being covered here. It also remains to be seen, though. Time will tell if they can really translate, especially, the winner can really translate all these into real policies that can really make all the changes. One interesting thing when we talk about all these policies, Kunat, we have a political analyst who talked to Thai PBS just recently, Professor Dr. Wutisan Panchai, who comments that competition is actually good to learn various policies which can be implemented from different candidates. So he said election encourages Bangkokians to learn about problems, that we can see in Bangkok on different dimensions as well. Because as a citizen, we may experience certain problems at certain level, but this will be more of a bigger picture that people will see, that we can learn from all the strengths and weaknesses of Bangkok and Metropolitan Management, or BMA. The issues will also be pushed forward, so solutions. So actually it sounds really positive, Kunat, that from all this that change can happen.
Exactly, Kunatai. But even though these policies seem to be really ambitious, Kunatai, but it is a challenge for whoever is going to be the governor as to how they're going to execute this, because some of the candidates even admit that it can be really hard and it might not be able to finish within the 4-year term. So, and this, what you're seeing right now is actually the NIDA poll, which shows who actually is leading at the moment.
So, as you can see, Kunat, NIDA poll is actually one of a few opinion polls that have been reported, over the past month. Actually, very many opinion polls indicating what candidate can gain, the most popularity, for example. So, starting with this poll, which surveyed more than 1,300 people, from May 9 to 10. Chachat gained most votes with 45%, followed by former Governor Aswin, and then the Move Forward candidate Wirod at almost 10%. Another opinion poll by King Prajatipok's Institute, which surveyed about 1,000 people from May 3rd to 9. Chachat came first with 42.4%, followed by Suchashawi and Aswin. Ban Somdet poll, which surveyed more than 1,100 people from May 6 to 9. Chachat also came first with almost 30%, followed by Wirod at 10.9% and Aswin at 8.1%. And last but not least, Suantasik poll, which surveyed more than 1,100 people as well between May 9 and 11. Chachat also came first with 39.9%, so almost 40%, followed by Suchashawi at 15.4% and Aswin at almost 14%. However, if we look into the social media landscape, the results are somewhat different. According to a poll conducted by data analytics company Biscuit Solution, which surveyed more than 4 million comments on social sites such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, between March 21st and May 7th. The 3 candidates that were most talked about are Aswin, Suchashawi, and Chachat. On the Facebook news pages, there were more than 80,000 reactions to almost 850 posts showing the three candidates are the most talked about. However, most of the comments for Aswin are from people who do not support him, which seems quite unfortunate as opposed to Sushashawi and Chachat. Meanwhile, Wirot, Aswin and Chachat were most mentioned on YouTube among the audience who watched a debate on the topic entitled 9 Years in Search of an Elected Governor. Wirot and Chachat were most positively talked about, while Aswin saw most negative comments again on YouTube. And on Twitter, Wirot, Chachat and Sushashawi were most frequently mentioned positively, while Aswin was mentioned negatively in a survey taken in late April following a debate. And in conclusion, Wirot, Chachat and Sushashawi were positively mentioned on all media platforms. This seems really interesting, Kunat, because, well, people might rely a lot on the polls, but some may also question whether they're really reliable. And today's results, which is still coming in, which is still in progress, will actually prove whether they're really accurate.
Exactly, but to give you a bit of a disclaimer though, with many of the polls that came out during the past month, it's only a small group of people, just only 1,000 people, not like 5.5 million people responding to the poll. So it's just a sample of what people think. It's not really the entire population. However, we do seem to get a better perspective when we look into the polls that were conducted on social media, because it is more impromptu in a way, because you get to see both negative and positive responses towards a candidate. And this is something that we may have not seen during the past elections or so.
For sure.
And apart from the policies from each of the candidates, we also need to understand the demographics in Bangkok, which can also reflect what kind of changes they want to see in the capital. And like we said, in Bangkok, there are 4.4 million eligible voters. And if we can show this graphic, we can actually see the age groups of the voters actually. And okay, we'll just give you an overview then. So the most voters that can vote in this year's elections are those aged 28 to 40 years old, or the so-called Gen Y or millennials, which account for 23% of all eligible voters, followed by people aged 60 and above, or the so-called baby boomers, which account for more than 22%. Interestingly enough, 16% are first-time voters aged 18 to 27 years old, or we call it the Gen Z, and some of the Gen Ys are also there as well, while those aged 41 to 50, or Gen X, and those aged 51 to 60 account for 19 and 18% respectively. And for the Bangkok's generation gap will actually play a big role when voters cast their ballots today. Let's find out why in the special report.
Bangkok has a total of 4.37 million eligible voters in the upcoming election. Of these, 15.5% or 700,000 are between 17 and 27 years old. This group of voters is expected to be quite active since they will be voting for the first time in the gubernatorial election. The group aged 28 to 40 accounts for 23% of the electorate, while those aged 41 to 50 make up 19.5%. The 51 to 60 age group, meanwhile, accounts for 18.5% of eligible voters. Those aged 61 years old and up make up the remaining 23.5%. Analysts believe Thailand is going to see distinct decisions across different generations of people. Associate Professor Siripan Nok Suan Sawaddi, political scientist at Chulalongkorn University, said that both baby boomers and the silent generation, those born between 1928 and 1945, are more likely to take a conservative stance. Conservative voters are expected to embrace independent candidates. Police General Aswin Kwanmung, 71 years old, Rosana Tositragun, 68, and Sakonthi Pattayakul, who expresses conservative political beliefs despite his relatively young age of 44. Baby boomers, with some exceptions, tend to stick firmly to their political stance. If they voted for a particular political party in the past, they will likely vote for that party again. Gen Y members, meanwhile, are expected to lean more towards younger candidates. Most of the election candidates belong to this category, hailing from Gen X. Move Forward Party candidate Wirod Lakhanadison is 44, while Democrat Party candidate Suchachawi Suwansawat is 49. Independent Chacha Sitipan is 55, and Thai Sang Thai Party's candidate Sitha Tiwari is 57. While we might naturally assume that most voters will make their choice based on candidates' policies, personal qualifications, and political affiliations, some young voters said the age of the candidates may influence their voting decision because they want a Bangkok governor who will represent and understand their generation. They believe people of different generations tend to have different perspectives. While voters that identify themselves as having no favorable political parties said they would cast their votes based on candidates' qualifications or profiles. Whatever the outcome might be in May, it will be the outcome of the election that is taking place amid an unprecedented scale of ideological divide. A senior political journalist, Tunsatit Thaptim, said that the contest that is supposed to be about clean air, cheap but effective mass transit, and traffic safety is already being dubbed a test of strength between warring political beliefs. Candidates will probably be judged more on which side of the national polarity they are on than on their true capabilities to run an increasingly complex metropolis independently and effectively. Tunsatit said that Bangkok has a curse that is hard to revoke or get away from. For better or worse, Bangkok's gubernatorial elections have been mostly a barometer of national politics. The good news is that voters this time are blessed with the most choices ever, 31, and the age groups of the voting public appear to be of equal sizes. It's good environment for the wisdom of the crowd, seemingly at least. If Bangkok is lucky, Tunsatit said, the victory also installs a good governor, one with a technical ability to see a flood coming and abort it, not one who wades through flood waters before TV cameras, because that's what politicians do. If lucks are not on the capital's side, Bangkokians can be stuck with someone who may give them a sense of ideological pride, but nothing more for a few years.
And now it's time to give you an update on the vote counting. And at the moment, a total of 466 votes have been counted so far. And based on the votes, of course, the independent candidate Chachat Sitipan is in the lead at the moment, followed by Suchachawi Suwansawat from the Democrat Party. Other runners-up include Wirod Lakhanadison, Sakonthi Pattayakul, and Aswin Kwanmung. And these are the top 5 candidates at the moment. And right now we have Untitled Chapter, who is here to analyze the future of the Bangkok elections. สวัสดีค่ะ
Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So with the results that Nat just mentioned here, with Kun Chachat leading already in the initial vote counts, how do you say that all the early results, so to say, reflect the political landscape in the capital, even its demographics?
Okay. First of all, what we're seeing right now is only 10% of the votes counted. So it's still very, very initial, right, the returns. But look at the margin, the lead that Kun Chachat has, compared to the rest.
Right.
So There is very little question whether or not he will win the election. So the bet is now whether he will reach the 1 million mark.
Right.
That's the biggest bet in town at the moment now. Not whether or not he will win.
Will it still be too early to call it a landslide victory?
It looks like, look at the trend. Look at the returns that have been coming in. And it all indicates to the possibility of a landslide for a victory for Kun Chat. And if he can achieve that, he would be the fourth candidate in Bangkok Governor election to have won more than 1 million votes.
So, as you mentioned, it's not just a question about whether he will win. It's quite sure, probably by this point. Why do you think he has gained so much support all these years? Because he's been a minister for actually a decade ago even. So, but there seems to be lingering support for him all these years. Well, what do you think are the main factors?
He was an early bird. There's no question about that. He was the first to throw his hat into the ring long before the other candidates did. So he had the advantage of the time lead. I believe that he has been on an official campaign trail for almost 2 years before the election really took place. So that means that he has been in touch with the local communities and reviving his network of supporters. So when the election comes, then he's more than ready than any other candidates to grab the votes.
And if we look into the key campaign policies, are there more or less the same as the previous election? What are your thoughts on this one?
Right.
Bangkok's problems are very obvious. Pollution, traffic jam, the laws, ordinances being broken, vendors, occupying footpaths, illegally. So these are the basic problems that Bangkok has been facing for decades now. So it's quite obvious that the candidates have to respond to these concerns, right? So their platforms are basically very similar. They may differ in details, but basically they will address these basic issues of Bangkok. Of course, Kun Chat has come up quite strongly with his series of platforms that are designed to address these issues.
Very technologically savvy.
And then I think he more importantly, I think he has strong connection with new generation of voters, and that his platform is about environment. His platform about not pursuing the mega projects or large-scale projects, but would go only after projects, no matter how small they will be, but projects that will benefit local communities. And then his strong point is that as I said, he has been on his unofficial campaign trail for at least 2 years. So he has the sort of in touch with the people at the grassroots level, and he knows exactly what these people want to hear.
So this has put him as an advantage compared to many other candidates as well. And with the 200 policies under 9 main headings, that is a lot compared to other candidates which may come up with only 5 or 10. Would you say it's a strength or not?
Certainly, because he tries to break down the major problems facing Bangkok. I think, as I mentioned, that he has made a promise not to go after large-scale projects which are prone to corruption and prone to abuses. And he knows, and as he has been on the campaign trail for much longer than the others, so he has a much better knowledge of what the local community wants.
So, as you mentioned, all these problems, that have been actually there for quite a long time, for decades, for Bangkokans, and people are even getting sick of it, and they want to see change. Do you think, with Kun Chat's approach, as you mentioned, he's quite different, actually. Are you confident he's going to bring about such changes?
Of course, that's something that we have to wait and see. But I have to admit that if you talk to Bangkokians, especially those who have been through elections, have been voting all their life, right? They would be openly very skeptical or even cynical when they hear candidates' pledges to do this or to do that. because they have been hearing this
Right.
long enough, right? But of course, with Kun Chatchat's character and his down-to-earth approach to problems, I think that his strength, and that's why people believe that. I mean, he's not someone from the ivory tower. He has been out there, I mean, studying problems people facing. So I think they gives him more benefits of the doubt than to other candidates. Yeah.
I see. And talking about the other candidate, okay, even though he's quite following quite behind and is still a little bit early to tell, we have Kun Suchachwi from the Democrat, who's a newcomer in politics, right? And representing the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is known also to be quite a stronghold in Bangkok, but with recent events, with the quite some may say poor performance during the 2019 general elections, and there's also a recent scandal surrounding the party. Do you think the current votes at least reflect, the party's popularity?
I asked the same question directly with Kun Suchachwi, and he said yes. I mean, the decline in popularity of the Democrat Party in Bangkok certainly has contributed to what would certainly turn out to be a big disappointment for Kun Suchachwi in this election.
Right.
And then you mentioned about the scandal involving one of the deputy leaders of the Democrat Party accused of sexual harassment against a number of women. That also have a lot of impact on Kun Suchachwi's campaign. But of course, what is more important is that the party itself, I mean, politically speaking, has been on a decline under Kun Julin's leadership, the present leader. So, and besides, Kun Suchachwi came into the picture rather late. I think compared to Kun Chatchat, right? I mean, 2 years on the campaign trail, and Kun Suchachwi only 3 months, less than 3 months. So just, I mean, that's enough for comparison. Yeah.
Still a baby.
And despite being a newbie in Thai politics, he seemed to be really confident that the current scandals will not affect his image or his campaign trail. But it looks like the results are sort of clear.
Officially, he would say, well, no problem. The Prince's problem shouldn't be mine, right? But behind closed door, he would admit that it was a big question that he always needed to address whenever he goes out and talk to potential voters. So that means that it certainly did have a lot of impact on his campaign.
Exactly. Now let's move on to another candidate, Asawin Kwanmeung, who was appointed by the junta government and now competing in the gubernatorial elections alongside with his former deputy governor, Sakonti. How do you see this sort of competition between the former governor and the former deputy? Like, what are your thoughts on this one?
It's certainly a big question why the two decided to jump into the ring together. Right? I mean, because they would sort of cannibalize each other's votes, right?
Maybe trying to prove themselves as well, right?
But I think Kun Sukonti certainly has his own reason because he's still young and still has a long way to go in politics. So he would see this as another stepping stone for him. So that's natural because Kun Sukonti is a veteran politician. So he certainly wouldn't want to stay away from this very important election. Kun Asawin, of course, I mean, he's probably the oldest candidate in this election. He's 71, right? And he has never been a politician. And I think Kun Asawin was there, or is there, because he represents, unofficially, of course, the ruling coalition, ruling party, the Palang Pracharat Party. Even though officially the Palang Pracharat would not acknowledge that they support Kun Asawin. So in a way, Kun Asawin represents the ruling party, and that and he was certainly determined to really win this election. Yeah.
And maybe the generation as well. We've seen, for the past few years, right, with several anti-government, anti-establishment protesters led by the youth, and several of such youths are also in Bangkok. Do you see kind of this quite clear split in the votes now in terms of generations?
Definitely. You were talking earlier about the so-called first-time voter, right?
Right.
Yep.
And if you look at the age range of these first-time voters, it's very interesting. Because first-time voter today can be as old as 28. Because we haven't had elections in Bangkok for 9 years, right?
Like there's a mix between Gen X and a bit of Gen Y because we haven't had an election for 9 years.
A person who is 29 today was probably only 17 when the last election was held, right? So we have a wide range of, so this group of people that is estimated to be around 700 to 800,000 would certainly be very decisive if they throw their lots with any particular candidate. And as you just mentioned, I mean, this new generation of voters certainly have a different political orientation from their parents, their grandparents. So, but I have been hearing a lot of stories about how families are split on this issue. The fathers and the parents would vote for Sekun Asabin, but the children said, I would go for Virod or for Kun Chachat.
But that's surely, not something that we can worry about, right? Yeah. Because it's basically, to each their own. People have different preferences, so it's not like an indication of discord, basically, of the Bangkok population.
But it does reflect that because a win for Kun Chachat also means a lot of impact.
Right.
A lot of, and it is serve as strong indication as to what the result of the next general elections will be. Because Kun Chachat is seen as representing a new political force as against the so-called current conservative political forces in power right now. Yeah.
And with the first-time voters, how is it going to make a significance in this time's elections? Because it has been 9 years since we had this gubernatorial elections. Some people say that even though the first voters may not make a big impact because of the population that is completely different compared to the baby boomers, Gen X or Gen Y, but it can sort of shift Thai politics into a new direction. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Certainly they would be, I think they have already started playing a very important role in deciding the future of Thai politics. Let's look back at the general elections we had 3 years ago. And the fact that the now disbanded Future Forward Party was swept into power unexpectedly. Nobody expected the party to perform that well. But thanks to support from this new generation of voters. So the same thing will repeat, I'm sure. This election is also a good indication, and the next generation certainly will see a repetition of this trend. Yeah.
I see. Well, that's really insightful contribution from Kun Thepchai. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
And actually, for more analysis, we actually have Professor Dr. Thitinan Phongsotirak on the line to also talk more on the issues and share some more of the insights and what he thinks as well. Still quite a way to go with the vote counts, but the results are quite clear by the moment. So, สวัสดีค่ะ Good evening.
สวัสดีครับคุณอาทัยครับ all viewers สวัสดีครับ
Hello. So thank you so much for your time. So first of all, with all the recent polls showing that Kun Chachat is leading, and right now we do have some real-time votes that indicate such. Is this actually quite a surprise to you, or something that is just totally expected?
It's a surprise, but also not a surprise. I mean, the vote counting is underway, and Kun Chachat seems to be very much on top. It looks like he will win a landslide, resounding, thumping victory. It's not a surprise because he's been the front runner for some time, and he threw his hat in the ring. He announced his candidacy more than 2 years ago, before the election was even in sight. And he's been campaigning. He's run a very kind of constructive, positive campaign. He hasn't done any smearing against opponents. He hasn't said bad things and sort of undercutting his opponents and rivals. So it's kind of a positive, constructive campaign. Not surprising that he's won, because he's talked about how to run Bangkok better. He's got a lot of projects, a lot of programs, and he's been proven. I mean, he's very popular because he's proven to be a technocrat, someone who gets the job done. Good performance when he was transport minister 10 years ago. So people like him. He's very likable. He's very popular. He's very consistent. Day in, day out. A little bit surprising, because towards the end, in the last stretch, campaigning and elections go like this. So at the end, the candidates use whatever means they can to get ahead. So he was under attack, and there was some smear campaign, and Kun Wirod of the Move Forward Party was gaining some ground, it looked like, through this debate. But in the end, Chachat held on, and I mean, he's on the way. I think should be a pretty clear victory for him. So yes, a surprise, but also not a surprise.
So, as we mentioned earlier, with fruitful discussion with Kun Thepchai, basically it's been actually quite a long time, a decade, that Kun Chachat was transport minister, but his popularity still remains till this day, and as evidenced by the votes. What are the main factors here besides, his being technology savvy? What does this actually say about Bangkok's current needs and demographics?
Well, first on Kun Chachat himself, Thailand, as you mentioned, is very divided. And basically, in this election in Bangkok, basically you have two sides, right? You either have a establishment, a pro-establishment, people who are supportive of the military coup in 2014, supportive of the military regime since then. That's one side. And the other side would be the anti-military, anti-coup, anti-establishment. And both sides have different degrees. So, Kun Chachat would be on the kind of the critical side, but not so radical. Over the past 9 years, I mean, since the coup in 2014, basically, he has been able to rise above the fray, maintaining some independence, some autonomy, some impartiality. He has distanced himself from the Pheu Thai party, running as a kind of a autonomous, I would not say even an independent per se, but he's his own man. And I think people see that Chachat is his own man. He's not dictated, he's not influenced by others, and he's got his own ideas. And I think he's proven by being consistent over the years. And I think he also has proven that he has technical expertise, knowing how to get things done. So by doing so, by maintaining his own impartiality and staying above the fray, beyond this division, people see that. I mean, he's proved himself. On the other hand, the Bangkok vote, I think this time, is a kind of very clearly is an anti, it's not a pro-military, pro-coup vote, right? It's a protest vote. It's a vote that says that, look, the last 8 years, since the military coup in 2014, Thailand has not done well. The military regime has not done well. And Chachat represents a kind of to me, he's not a radical. He's, a moderate for change and for reform, but more gradual, more steady, not so radical, not drastic. So in fact, if people are upset that Chachat won, they should be glad, because if Kun Wirod had won, it would have been more radical, because Kun Wirod is running on a kind of a drastic change. We need change now, and a lot of change. Kun Chachat, I think, is more kind of, yes, we need change, but it takes time. In the meantime, we need to get things done, get the country moving again. In his case, it would be Bangkok. And I think that he's got a lot of programs for Bangkok, and let's see what he does. If Bangkok can get moving again, better governed, more efficiency, then maybe that can be a lesson for the national politics. I think there's a microcosm here. Bangkok this time, a lot of people want to have a vote, have a say because they're sick and tired of the military regime. I think Kun Aswin, the incumbent, the outgoing incumbent, is representative and personifies that military regime, and people have rejected him. People have voted for change, but a more gradual change, not drastic, not radical, and therefore we have Kun Chatchat most likely on course to be the governor.
So, as we mentioned before, that maybe Kun Chatchat does represent, probably a more neutral or that trying to merge all groups of people with, different demographics and maybe even extremes, right? And right. Yes, sir.
Thailand needs change. I think that most people would not disagree with that. I mean, we've been stuck in a standstill over the past 2 decades. There have been 2 military coups and lots of protests, relentless year in and year out. So change is imperative. But in Kun Chatchat, I think that change is more kind of a gradual, moderate kind of change, not radical, not drastic. And that may be a kind of compromise that Thailand is looking for, not just in Bangkok, but in national politics. Change, but gradual, in longer term. In the meantime, let's get the country moving again. Let's get Bangkok moving again.
Okay, now let's look at the policies that each of the candidates have proposed during the past month. Do they actually address the real needs of the people in Bangkok? What are your thoughts on this issue?
If you look at the different candidates' agendas and then the campaign promises, pledges, they address similar issues, right? Rice and curry, bread and butter issues, livelihoods, standards of living, quality of life, air quality, the floods that we have normally, poverty issues, schooling, buses, public transports. A lot of these issues are being addressed by most of the candidates. So I think the bigger picture is that the different candidates stands for different things. They all stand for programs and what to do, how to make Bangkok better run and so on. And people are interested in that, of course. But I think the big issue is that, what kind of change do we want? And the different candidates stand on their own. We can see on the establishment, on the kind of the conservative side, there's Kun Sakonti, Dr. Suchachawi, Kun Rosanna, and then the incumbent, the police general Asawin. They did not fare very well in this election, by the way, in Bangkok. So I think that's something to take home with. It's a takeaway that people want change. They don't want incumbency. They don't want conservatives. On the other side, you have Kun Sitha, Kun Chatchat, and Kun Virod. Kun Virod probably more kind of drastic change. Change now, and in talking about changing, even reforming the traditional political institutions. But Chatchat, I think, yes, change, but I think the focus is on governance, it's on performance, it's on getting things done. And if you look at the programs he put up, a lot of his ideas, but they overlap with the other candidates as well. So I think people are saying that they want change, they want governance, they want performance, and they want change over time, a little bit more gradual, but they want performance now.
I see. Well, thanks so much, Professor, for your insight, and that seems really, hopeful and quite positive indeed. And let's hope, with time, that things do change in the right way as well. Thanks so much, Professor. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. So this is actually an overview of the future of Bangkok and after the gubernatorial elections. And now let's have a look at Chatchat Sittipan's profile, because it looks like he is still leading according to the vote counting. So many people know Chatchat as the former transport minister during the Yingluck Shinawatra administration, and he is now competing as the independent candidate. So as the Bangkok gubernatorial vote counts are coming in, it seems like the candidate, Chatchat Sittipan, is still leading at the moment. And while we'll take a look back at his profile as well as his previous works in Thai politics, to give you a bit of a profile, Chatchat Sittipan, who is an independent candidate for the gubernatorial elections, He was best known as the former Minister of Transport during the Yingluck Shinawatra administration between 2012 to 2014. But way before that, he also served as an advisor to Thaksin Shinawatra and Samak Suntharawet back when they were prime ministers as well. And interestingly enough, he was one of the Pheu Thai party's candidates for prime minister in the 2019 election. And back when he was a transport minister, Kunatai, he has made a lot of achievements. And one of them was amending the plans for the Bang Su Central Station to support high-speed rail and laying new train tracks in the northern parts of Thailand. He has been nicknamed as the strongest minister on earth over a viral photo of him wearing a tank top and barefooted, as well as holding a plastic bag of Thai curry. Sometimes he was even dubbed as the Hulk from the Avengers because of his down-to-earth personality, which made him very popular among young voters. And previously, he was also an associate professor of engineering at Chulalongkorn University. Chattat also holds a master's degree from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and also a PhD from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Now let's give you a bit of an update of the vote counting at the moment. Of course, Chattat Sittipan is still in the lead with 268,000 votes, followed by Wiro Lakanadison and Suchachawi Suwansawat. And other runner-ups also include Sakunti and Asawin as well. And these are the latest updates on the vote countings as they actually come in. And we'll try to get back to Kitipat Chusukjit, who is still at Stadium 1, because I believe there's going to be another press conference after declaring victory, I guess. So maybe we should go back to him now. So the live ambience is ready. So could Kitipat tell us what is the ambience right there?
Sawadika, how is it going?
Good evening again, Cap. Right now, I'm still at the Stadium 1, where the supporters of Chachat Sittipan, the former transport minister and independent candidate, is gathering here to support Chachat Sittipan. But right now, we can see that there's not a lot of people here right now as the Chachat teams collect a lot of shares already. So at 6:30 p.m. when Chachat arrived at the Stadium 1, he said to the press that he doesn't have any feeling right now. He doesn't have any feeling whether he's happy or he's disappointed. Even he gets more than 250,000 votes in an unofficial election vote right now. And right now he doesn't want to say anything as he wants the result to become more clear, to become clearer. He said in the end that he wants to thank you everyone, both who vote and doesn't vote for him. And after that he go up on this building to see his team. So right now I'm going to talk to some supporters who come here today to support Chachat at Stadium 1. So here, many people still here, and these are some supporters that we want to talk with him. สวัสดีครับครับอันนี้มาจากเขตไหนครับปทุมวันตรงนี้เลยใช่ไหมครับ So he said he from ปทุมวัน district. So he's from this district. ทำไมถึงมาที่จุดนี้ณวันนี้ครับ
จริงๆเมื่อก่อนเราทำเรื่องเกี่ยวกับเรื่องเครือข่ายชุมชนเกี่ยวกับเรื่องบ้านมั่นคงเรื่องที่อยู่อาศัยเรื่องที่ดินเรื่องอาชีพเศรษฐกิจพวกนี้นะเมื่อก่อนเราเป็นเครือข่ายกรุงเทพปริมณฑลรวมไปถึงต่างจังหวัดด้วยนะครับรวมแล้วทั่วประเทศนะครับจริงๆนี่อยู่บนไกลทีนี้ทำไมถึงมาชอบประจันทร์ชาติเพราะว่าเราอยู่มา 8-9 ปีแล้วมันก็ไม่มีอะไรดีขึ้นจะเป็นเรื่องสุขแวด ล้อมไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องยาเสพติดไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของการศึกษาเด็กเยาวชนอะไรพวกนี้นะมันมีปัญหาไปหมดนะครับแล้วเราก็เลยไม่รู้จะทำใน9 ปีที่ผ่านมา8 ปี 9 ปีที่เราก็อยู่กับต้องทรมานโดยเฉพาะมาเรื่องของเรื่องการปฏิวัติรัฐประหารด้วยนะเรื่องไม่เป็นประชาธิปไตยเลยพวกนี้แล้วก็มีปัญหานะฮะจะมาหากินไม่ได้แล้วก็แถมมามีเรื่องโควิดปีที่1ปีที่2ขึ้นมาตอนนี้เศรษฐกิจของชาวบ้านแทบตายครับไม่ว่าจะเป็นในกรุงเทพปริมณฑลหรือว่าพี่น้องในชนบทเหมือนกันก็ทุกข์ยากกันไปล้นหน้านะครับนี่มาทราบอาจารย์ชาติหนึ่งแกเป็นคนตรงไปตรงมาอันที่2ก็คือแกมองเห็นคนจนคนลากยากนะฮะเป็นแกนหลักที่จะมาทำการที่มันจะมาเป็นผู้ว่าก่อนท่านก็เคยเป็นรัฐมนตรี
ใช่ครับผม
แล้วก็ชอบเรื่องนโยบายเรื่องรถไฟฟ้ารถไฟทางไกลแต่ทีนี้นี่
ครับเดี๋ยวขอแปลก่อนนะครับผม so he said that he's here today because he want to support Chacha Sittipan as he worked in the community network for a long time and he said it's been like 8 or 9 years that Bangkok suffered from economic problems, environment problems and drugs problems and he want to see the change and he is confident in Chacha Sittipan. All right. So right now, people here are still waiting for Chacha to show up again to give a speech. But he said already that he wants everything to be clearer before he come out again to say anything, because he just don't want to say anything right now. He doesn't have any feeling right now, even he's happy or not happy. He wants to wait for everything to be more clear. So right now it's just this gap back to the studio gap.
Who's live at Stadium 1 waiting for Chacha Sittipan to actually make a call. And I'm not sure whether it's actually appropriate to call it a landslide victory at the moment. And Chacha was right. Maybe he wants to make things clear before he actually makes an official announcement.
Exactly. And basically, when you talk about, a landslide, he's still actually leading quite big lead by more than 51.5%, followed by Wiro Lakhana Adison and then Sushashawi Suwansawat, who's from the Democrat. And speaking of the third ranked at the moment, actually he just came on the second right now, just at this instant. Kun Sushashawi being second ranked with almost 10% of votes. We have a live report from the support base and the vote base of Kun Sushashawi by our reporter Kun Chalalakjan Wanpen. Let's have a look.
Hi. We are here at his office in Pahonyotin still, and like you said, he's been going on and off between the second place and the third place, which is actually very impressive given that he has no political experience before. But however, the situation here right now, it has been quiet actually, because Kun Sushashawi has just gone inside his office since like 5 p.m. when he came out here and then gave some interview to the media saying that he was still confident back then at the 5 p.m. But after that, he still appeared to be in good spirits actually, and he talked casually with the media about how he's doing, and he said that it has been a very good experience still, even though he's kind of far behind comparing to the number one right now, which is Kun Chacha. Yes.
Kun Chawanlak, he seems to know that the result now he's falling behind. Do you know if he feels, has he said that he feels discouraged already, or ready to give up, or what's his next move, by the way?
Not at all, actually, Kun Hathai. He maintains his positivity very, very well, actually. He was still laughing and everything with the media and said that it has been a very, very good experience. And he's more than ready to go on, if people are still ready to support him, and he's very thankful for all the votes and all the support from the supporters.
Exactly. Well, and has he mentioned anything at all, after the election, if he will go back to, because he has his thriving career in the academics and, as an engineering professor and university rector, is he going back to that?
Unfortunately, he hasn't said anything about his future yet, but then he actually said that he's still a member of the Democrat Party. So I think at this point we can say that he still has political future lying ahead of him.
That's actually really nice to see that one can also really adapt really well to the new environment and being in politics and all of that, despite the results, because actually there seems to be roles for everyone. Well, thank you so much for the latest update, and we'll actually get right back to you when he has more to say. We hope to hear more from that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's now have an update on more of the live vote counts as well.
Exactly, and we'll give you another update. So, of course, Chat is still leading at the moment, followed by Suchachawi, Wirod, Sakonti, and Asawin as well. So, I think it's quite interesting to have a look at Suchachawi and Wirod because they are actually switching back and forth between second and third place. So if we can actually compare the two candidates between Suchachawi and Wirod, we can see how they are actually competing against each other. So can we have the graphics at the back? So we would like to compare between the Suchachawi and Wirod because there's this feature though. We can click on your favorite candidate and compare with another person. So you can see that there's a difference. Okay, this is Chat and Suchachawi at the moment. So you can see there is a big gap between the two the two candidates in each of the districts. So, all right, what we're seeing right here is that So Chachawi is leading Wirod by only 0.02% only, and it looks like in each of the districts below, and unfortunately it's in Thai, so I'll have to translate for you. So if we look at the top 5 districts where they have the closest votes, the 5 districts are Sathorn, Nong Jaw, Hoi Kwang, Don Mueang, and Suan Luang. These are the 5 districts where both candidates have the closest votes. Sathorn, there's only like a 4-vote difference here, so we can see why these two candidates are switching back and forth between second and third place. And if we look into the districts, you can see that. All right. Okay, if we compare Chat and Suchachawi at the moment, it's like a big gap right here, Kunatai.
I see. Wow. That's actually really clear now, Kunat. It's been what? It's almost 8 p.m. It's been almost 3 hours, 2 hours and a half to be exact. And it's quite clear the results that Kun Chachat is really leading. And at least Kun Asawin, who's, as we can see from the latest update that we could not just show you, he's actually around ranked around number 5 at the moment, which means that it's very, very slim chance or maybe no chance right now for him to win anymore. So actually he came out to announce Kun Asawin, who's the former Bangkok Governor appointed by Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, that he has conceded defeat, and that he said he already let people decide, and there's also no way of all the 30 win. There's only one winner. As you remember, there are actually up to almost 30 candidates, which is really quite high number. So he said there's no way that all of them can win. There can only be one. So he also won't contact, go back to any other fields just yet. And he's not contesting another contest. So, this is quite normal in politics, where when the results are quite clear and the candidates actually conceding the results and the basically just let the people decide.
Right, and speaking of that, Kunatai, up to 31 candidates for this year's gubernatorial election is actually the highest number in history, not to mention that 2 of them are already disqualified from the competition. But like you said, Kunatai, it is a very slim chance for Asawin to take the lead, because looking at the percentage at the moment, Chacha went up to 51.6%, while other people were like 9%, 7%, or even like Rosana got only 3%, as Itatiwari got 2.5% only. That is a very slim chance. And considering that Chachat has been in the game for so many years, 2 years to be very specific on the gubernatorial competition, he has put himself in an advantage to gain the votes from so many people, especially the young voters.
Exactly. So we can see that the results are quite clear. The polls were actually quite accurate, Kanet. Some people actually did question that, if there'd be some surprises, but all the polls did point to this, and the results also pointed to this. Is the victory for independent candidate, or he's dubbed the strongest minister on planet Earth.
Well, the strongest minister on planet Earth and the strongest candidate for the Bangkok Governor Elections as well. So we can say that he actually won.
Right. So just before we end the program tonight, we'll like to give you the latest update on the vote counts once again, just to see how much Chachat is leading. Can we have the
results? Have the votes in English? Right. Okay, so before we end the program, we will give you the latest update. So Chachat is leading at the moment with 51.64%, followed by Suchachawi Suwansawat, and the other runner-ups were Wiro Lakhanadison, Sakunti Patiyakun, and Asawin Kwan Mueang. And so far, around 549,000 votes have been counted so far.
Right. So, of course, this is no way official. It is no way official results. Everything is still unofficial, but it's just so that we can see quite clearly who's in the lead, who's not, and even with some who already conceded defeat. We hope you enjoy our program and actually, learn something, and we hope that is quite helpful for your understanding as well, for those who are interested in not just, Thai politics, but specifically for Bangkok, the capital of Thailand, with also different demographics that we have seen, being displayed in the votes today.
Exactly, and that wraps up tonight's edition of Reignite Bangkok. Thank you so much for watching, and you can still join us every weekday at 7 p.m. with Thai PBS World Tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow with the usual programming.
Right.
Swathi ka.
Swathi ka. Have a good night.